viewers. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk with Taynia, where real problems are discussed and important issues highlighted. The statement of the day is the British Caribbean is still a mirror of European civilization and still does not reflect its own unique political, social, and economic development. To discuss the statement, we have here the accomplished history professor at the Northern Caribbean University, who graduated from the University of Bath, England, at the top of his class. He has a double major in anthropology and history. Welcome, Jonathan Brown. Also, we have the esteemed Asha K. Bryan, published author of 5 books discussing Caribbean-related affairs, who graduated from the University of the West Indies, Mona, with first-class honors, with a double major in Africana Studies and History. Welcome. So my first question to you is, what is your view on the social development of the British Caribbean since independence? Let us start with music. Ashaki?
Well, it is clear to me that the British Caribbean is obviously not a reflection of European civilization. We have our own music, we have our own style. Mento, for instance, it started out using European influences along with African influences, but we have evolved dancehall, soca, reggae. This is all something that belongs to us. The steel pan, created in Trinidad in the 1930s, that's something indigenous to this region. It gave us our sound, it gave us our identity. How can we therefore say that we're a mirror?
But regarding religion, isn't Christianity our main religion, and isn't that from Europe?
Taynia, thank you, because that's exactly what I was about to say. We still in the Caribbean worship a white man's God. We adhere to a white man's religion. Christianity is still by and large the major and main religion in the Caribbean. Think about it, Jamaica even has more churches per square mile than any other country in the world. I mean, other religions like Islam and Hinduism, they're barely recognized at all. I mean, our very national anthem makes references to this white man's God. How are we different? How are we different? You tell me that.
Fair point, but the way in which the religion is manifested in this region, it is something that belongs to us. So look at Europe. Europe does not worship God the same way as how we worship God. We have more energy. We even have indigenous religions such as Rastafarianism, indigenous denominations like revivalism. We have the Shelter Baptist in Trinidad. We have Pocomania in Jamaica. How can you say that we're a mirror?
Good points, good points.
Thank you.
Our education system seems to look a lot like Britain's.
Yes.
Thoughts?
Yes, it does, Taynia. We still have the primary system into the secondary system with the high school. We even copied their sixth form institution. I mean, it does seem very similar indeed.
Well, that's just the structure. You need to focus more on the content. Our content is Caribbean-centric. We learn about our history. In primary school, we learn about our national heroes in Jamaica. We learn about our icons. We learn about slavery. We learn about what makes this region our region. We learn about our identity. We even have in sixth form, in high school, we even have our own examination council that deals with how we transition into higher education. You need to remember that when we've been dominated by another civilization for centuries, we will still have remnants. We've only been independent around 50 years. You need to remember that.
Fair points. So regarding the political system, do you believe it mirrors that of Europe? Would like to go first?
I would say that.
Okay.
I do believe it mirrors that of Europe. I mean, we literally use the exact same parliamentary model as is used in Britain, the Westminster model of parliament, and we have an upper house, the Senate, we have a lower house, the House of Representatives, we have a Governor General who's literally the representative of the Queen of England. We have a Prime Minister just like they do in England. I mean, it's very similar. Very similar indeed.
Alright, I'll concede with you on that point. However, you need to recognize that it's a commonality within the region that we have the constitution, the written constitution. This is the highest source of law in the region. All laws have to conform within this law, else they're considered invalid. However, in England, they have what's called parliamentary sovereignty, which differs very much from what we have. They don't have the written constitution.
That is true. I guess you could call that a difference, but most, if not all, British Caribbean islands still use the common law legal system, which basically encompasses the entire legal structure. We use many of the same courts, the same composition of judges. We use juries, for example. We even have the Privy Council as our final appellate court, which is a court of England. So I mean, all in all, the legal system is almost the same.
Interesting, interesting. I hope our viewers have their notepads out, recording the important details being given in today's history class. And also, if you have any questions, please to jot it down. We'll answer them at the end. So we are here with members of our audience. Welcome. Do any of you guys have a question?
More of a comment.
Okay.
I think our economy mirrors that of Britain. Look at our public and private sectors. It's similar to that of Britain. Our government subsidizes some industries such as agriculture.
Good point. Mrs. Brown, Mr. Brown, any comments?
Thank you for that comment, but please understand that our economy is still small. We're in the developmental stage. Once we grow further, we learn how to diversify our economy, our products, and then we'll move away from what we once were when we were a colony.
Thank you for the comments, Mrs. Brown and Mr. Brown. Questions?
So, growing up, we were taught that British English was the proper way to speak. Can you lend your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much for that very valid question. That is absolutely true. For example, in Jamaica, the official language is still English. Patois, for instance, which is the Creole language which was forged through the struggle of the slaves, is not even accepted in, say, official settings. And I really think that that's a travesty. That we can't, as a people, even accept one of our own creations, and we still cling to the European language.
I have a point to add to that, Mr. Brown. We also have our icons like the Honorable Dr. Louise Bennett. We have people like Earl Lovelace who embrace their language, who embrace the vernacular of their different Caribbean islands. We have JCDC. Each ministry in the different region has cultural departments where they embrace their culture. So, yes, even though it's not officially accepted, we still do embrace this beautiful aspect of our identity.
Okay, thank you a lot for that insight. But I have one more question.
Right.
So, I saw that you guys spoke about a lot of social issues, but one that you guys left out was food, which I personally think the Caribbean has excelled in. So can you guys explain the uniqueness of the Caribbean food culture to me, please?
All right, thank you for your comment. Yes, that's very true. We do have a unique cuisine here in the Caribbean. We have African influences, Chinese influences, Indian influences, and of course European influences, but it doesn't mirror exactly any of these contributions. In fact, we have created it into something new. Our food does not mirror that of Europe. We have things like ackee and saltfish, roast breadfruit, doubles in Trinidad, pulari in Guyana, all sorts of different things that you just can't find in Europe.
I concede that point. Our food is very different.
Thank you, thank you. Any more questions?
Yes, I have a question. Okay, in terms of the beauty standards, when I was in school, boys wouldn't really want to talk to a girl like me with natural hair, but they normally prefer girls with like straight hair. So isn't that more like a European beauty standard?
All right, thank you very much for your question, young lady. And in response, I would have to say that I agree with your sentiments. I mean, it's clearly observable that in several Caribbean households, girls are taught that their natural hair is somehow more messy than hair that is, say, straightened or processed. So they strive to process their hair, to straighten their hair. And I think that that's very, very reflective of European society. We as a people, we still don't embrace our natural features and our natural characteristics. We find beauty in European standards, and that's an effect that hundreds of years of colonialism has had on our people. So, in that aspect, I really do see the British Caribbean as being a mirror of European society.
All right, thank you for your comment, Mr. Brown. However, it's my personal observation that the natural hair movement is quite alive in the Caribbean nations. You have seen more girls going back natural, embracing their natural skin color, their natural hair. Of course, this is a recent trend, therefore, there's no scholarly article on this that I can quote at the moment.
Thank you, thank you. We are at the end of Real Talk with Taynia, but firstly, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Brown, any final comments? You have 30 seconds each.
Okay, firstly, I'd just like to thank you once again, Taynia, for having me on this talk show today. And I'd like to say also that my eyes have been opened. I realize that the British Caribbean is not as much of a mirror that as I originally thought that it was. We are still similar in some aspects, but I don't think I could classify us as a mirror anymore.
All right, thank you very much for having me here today, Taynia. But I would also like to mention the Eurocentric nature of the question, the British Caribbean. I believe that we as a region, we have diversified ourselves culturally, socially, enough to separate us from our former colonial masters. We have our own identity, our own ways. But still, thank you. I heard some very interesting points that have further changed my train of thought as it regards this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, Mrs. Brown. And that's it for Real Talk with Taynia.